Well, as you've seen there, the economic freedom fighters were part of the court's judgment today and were included in a costs order by the Judge Sulet Potterill. To discuss the North Gauteng High Court ruling and other matters, we're now joined in studio by EFF National Spokesperson, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
All right, so in that clip, you said that this is shutting down the office of the public protector. How so?
Well, I mean, the rich and powerful in this country, a part of what is essential to their functioning in society is that they are untouchable because they've got access to resources and can go to court anytime. So if the public protector is found against the powerful and the rich, they can simply go to the court, make an application for an interdict, even when there are no exceptional circumstances. The essential question, of course, beyond many of the things that can be discussed in Part B, in the actual debates of the review, was what would be wrong with Gordhan being removed as a minister now? It's not an irreparable damage, because once Part B is argued, he can still come back. He's appointable anytime. But what the court has done basically is to have created him as this a creature that cannot be held accountable, the creature that is above the law. And if anybody who is powerful at all times, the public protector finds against them, they can just go to a court of law and then get an interdict to suspend the remedial action of the public protector. That shuts down that office.
Are you suggesting that the courts are being biased and not ruling on law? I mean, what was the point of law that was a concern for you?
That's precisely the point, is that with an urgent interdict, you're supposed to demonstrate seriously exceptional circumstances, particularly with an office whose life or his existence flows directly from the Constitution. You can't just suspend the remedial action of the public protector. It's not like any other remedial action. It's a very, very important office that is protecting the public, which is a part of our ability or part of our system to hold power accountable. So in this case, what were the exceptional circumstances for the interdict? Is that Pravin is going to be fired, or Pravin is going to be subjected to a discipline? In our view, that was the essential legal point, and we think the judge got it wrong.
Is there no sense of fairness that, you know, if somebody is accused of something and that decision, the punishment that goes with that decision can affect their life, can they not say, hang on, before you carry out the sentence, can I please review the decision that got us to this point? This seems to be what the judge was saying, that his career can be compromised. If you suspend the decision, it can still be acted out if the reasoning that got to the remedial action is tested and found to be safe.
But that's not an irreparable harm that could be done. That step aside, go fix your name. You're a politician. Step aside, go fix your name through the very review process, and then you can come back. But you see, it's not just that. The entire process is suspended. Parliament action is suspended, the Hawks, the NPA, because the remedial action of the public protector is not only in relation to Gordhan and his position in the cabinet in relation to Ramaphosa disciplining him. It has to do with Parliament, it has to do with the SABC. So the SABC can't go and investigate the rogue unit because a court of law has suspended the remedial action of the public protector. Our view is very simple, is that you need not do that because it's a mere appointment into cabinet. If the courts can just set aside the remedial action of the public protector, sometimes the review processes can take 2 to 3 years. If they can do that, all the powerful, particularly the powerful politicians like Pravin Gordhan, if they don't want to be held accountable, they'll just go to a court of law and say that...
So you agree then with your deputy president who says that the reality is that white people in South Africa, including judges, are 100% united in defense of the capitalist establishment as represented by the incumbent. I mean, that's quite an accusation that the judiciary, white judges, are united in the defense of capitalist establishment.
Yeah, that's what we believe.
They're not doing their jobs.
There's cases in which their bias shows. I don't know if you watched the proceedings of the court on that day. It was very painful to watch the way that judge treated black lawyers. It was a very strange day in 25 years democratic South Africa, where the people that made the application were represented completely by white old men. And on the other side, it was young black men representing the EFF and the public protector. As soon as those black men started presenting their case, you could visibly see the irritation of the judge. She was interrupting them. She was even making a mockery of their submissions. But when the white judges when the white lawyers or the advocates were speaking, you could see she was treating them sometimes even with admiration. You could see those things, but that's one side of the story. The judiciary is a diverse bench. So that's why we're going to the Constitutional Court. We have not given up. We merely disagree with this judgment. It is not it's not a statement on the entire judiciary. But we do think that in matters such as this one, where you saw a white judge visibly irritated, not being cognizant of the fact that that courtroom also belongs to black people.
Are you suggesting a black judge wouldn't have come to the same decision?
Well, they may very well have, but a black judge may have treated those black lawyers with much more respect.
Right.
But we are going to the Constitutional Court. It's a matter, it's not one judge, it's 11 judges that will, part of what those 11 judges will do, will have to debate. There is a minority judgment. I don't know why in this case there was not even a full bench in the High Court. They could have given the matter of the constitutional structure such as the public protector a full bench. They give it one single judge to sit on that matter alone.
Right.
So we are going to the Constitutional Court, and there we hope that a much more substantial debate among senior judges will take place.
And it will rule differently?
We think that they will come to a different conclusion.
What about the ABSA Bancorp issue? Because those remedial actions were also suspended. Had those actions been followed through, the consequences could have been severe.
Well, look, that's the law, and each and every case has to be treated on its own merits. There's no blanket approach. Every public protector's remedial actions are subject to a court review. It's very possible that anybody at any case in time can have
followed at that time what her actions
It's part of the law. It's part of the law. The courts of South Africa have also pronounced that the public protector's remedial action are binding and can only be set aside by a court of law. So you want or you disagree with the remedial action of the public protector, you approach a court. We are doing the same. We are not happy with a lower court decision. We are going to a higher court decision because we are not convinced that, number one, the rogue unit was... Peter, if you remember, when we started on this fight, people said there was no rogue unit, meaning there was no unit that was engaged in investigations where they were using covert means. Today we are told no. An investigative unit can exist in SARS without legislation, number one. Number two, without getting the president's approval. It can exist and engage in covert collection, and that will be illegal. So we're making progress from it is not there to no, it is illegal. We'll go to the Constitutional Court, and I tell you now, within our legal system, you cannot, outside legislation, number one. Number two, without a direct allowance from the president, form an investigative unit which engages in intelligence activities.
The courts will decide eventually on this issue. My question for you now is, what is actually your position on the public protector herself? Because you've been separating the office and the person. Let's just recap what your commander-in-chief once said about her, and it was quite soon after her appointment, actually.
We didn't know what we're doing. Now we regret that thing. We regret it. South Africa, we regret supporting this comrade. She's going to collapse that office. That office as it is now. I saw a document from EFF Parliament or Governance Task Unit saying we've referred the matter to a public protector. I was like, why is the EFF sending things to this one now? It's just a waste of time. She's not going to do anything.
So what's your position now? Are you still not happy with her as a person sitting in that office? Are you quite happy that you're separating her from the office of the Public Protector? And if that's the case, are you going to be party to perhaps removing her from office when it comes up in Parliament in due course?
The conditions of the existence of the Public Protector have completely now been politicized. At the time, it was really a matter of her competence. If you check the entire clip, the President was responding to a judgment or a court judgment or a court decision in which she had said that Parliament must amend the Constitution. And that was our reaction. It was to a court judgment. It was not in the beginning of her term of office, in a sense that we were just merely commenting. We were very aware the DA opposed her appointment. The DA still, went to complain to the Office of the Public Protector because you cannot be happy with the person. You cannot be happy with the judge, for an example. We are not happy with the judge today, but we are not calling for her removal. Because that's not how it goes, you see.
But what about Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane? You said she was going to destroy this office, and many people suggesting that she is.
Our position at the moment is that the incumbents or the Public Protector, her person at the moment, the debate about her removal or her staying has been completely politicized. There's nothing to do anymore with whether she's capable or not.
Have you not contributed to that, though?
It is completely about politics. It is the fact that she is going against people that are untouchable, who are linked at the moment with the factions that are in control in the ANC. The ANC put her there. The ANC was part of the processes that pushed her in. So the point is, at the moment, it's no longer whether the person is actually capable or not, is that she is going against Pravin Gordhan. And we're not going to be part of the removal of the Public Protector because she is going against Pravin Gordhan. We'll never do that. We'll never support the removal of a Public Protector because she's going against people that white monopoly capital is uncomfortable with.
All right.
We'll never do that.
Will you let her go because of judgments such as the Bancorp one?
It's one single judgment. In this second judgment, this is going to be the second judgment, we're going to the Constitutional Court, and we don't believe on this one that she got anything wrong. We are the complainants in the rogue unit case. We saw the evidence. We know that a rogue unit existed inside SARS and it was engaged in illegal activities. They were bugging NPA offices. They were bugging NPA offices.
Again,
it can't be right.
But that will be tested, and that's the
day the courts of South Africa say that it was correct for a unit within SARS to have bugged NPA offices, I want to tell you now, Peter, our democracy is finished.
All right, so this Constitutional Court that you're going to has already labelled her a liar. Do you want an advocate, a public protector that's been regarded as someone who's told mistruths?
The Public Protector before was declared as having been in contempt of court, which is actually it's in the higher terrain of advocates. She was said to have been in contempt of court. Nobody called for her removal. The point of the matter is, on the matter, I mean, we even declared with regards to the South African Reserve Bank issue, and on the basis and the merits in that issue, were comfortable, were okay with what was said. It didn't call for her removal. The courts didn't say that she must be removed. And I'm saying to you, it is now about politics. The reason why there is a sustained campaign in the media led by journalists that are linked to the Pravin Gordhan faction who have been in defense of that person for the longest of times, it is because she is going against the untouchables. And to that extent, we're not going to be party to a process that is removing a person from the office of the Public Protector merely because she's going against people that are declared to be uncomfortable.
The politicization of...
No, we have not. I'm saying to you, at the time when the president of the EFF was commenting there, it was in response to a judgment. That's what you're not putting, because you are trying to frame as well a specific narrative around the Public Protector. We're not going to be part of that. The judgment that come out to say she's wrong to have said that the Constitution, or to instruct Parliament to amend the Constitution in relation to the life of the South African Reserve Bank. The point of the matter is she was wrong. It's different. The merits in that case are correct. We've got a different case now. the rogue unit which existed within SARS. She must be removed because of that? No way.
All right, okay, perhaps to close this part of the conversation. So you're saying for as long as the Pravin Gordhan and the SARS rogue unit case is still open, you're not going to be party in Parliament to the removal of...
It's not just that one. There's a second one now. There's 2 cases on Pravin Gordhan, and then the other one is President Cyril Ramaphosa and the fact that he has not declared in Parliament the close to R1 billion that he has received in donations with regards to his campaign to become president of the ANC. Are you going to tell me again that the public protector must be removed because he has gone against the head of state? Right. No. So as long as those matters and many, many other matters that relate to people that are untouchable, we're not going to be part of a political campaign to remove the public protector.
Okay, so you'll continue to protect
We're going to protect that office. We're going to protect its dignity. We're going to protect even the dignity of the person that occupies it, that she cannot be, declared, or she cannot be painted in certain terms merely because you disagree with her.
All right. So moving to the other issue, this weekend you celebrated your 6th anniversary. When you formed this party in 2013 and 6 years on, are you where you plan to be in terms of size and contribution to the country?
Absolutely. In fact, we are outdoing ourselves as the EFF. The greatest, most powerful thing that I think in the political terrain, particularly for poor working class and black people in general, was that if you think 5 years ago, what would have happened if there was no EFF with the deterioration of the ANC? The DA would have become an even more powerful political party, but whose interest fundamentally is the protection of white privilege. That's what the absence of the EFF would have meant, is that with the deterioration of the ANC, the African revolutionary agenda remains safe, and that is rooted in things, number one, like the expropriation of land without compensation, the necessity for the creation of a state bank which won't discriminate against black people, particularly against young black entrepreneurs who don't get any assistance from the existing banks, is that the liberation objectives as conceived over 100 years ago remain alive in the form of an organization called the EFF, taking into consideration that the ANC abandoned those liberation objectives as soon as 1994, when they allowed the protection of the property called land to be in the hands of white people. So we're outdoing ourselves. I mean, look at the votes. None of us were ministers before. None of us were presidents before. When COPE was started, it had previous ministers, mayors, millionaires, in fact, billionaires. We had only children of the working class. We had the working class, domestic workers, mine workers, and look where we are. Against established opinions in the media that we would not make it to this extent. So we're outdoing ourselves. You can only imagine we grow with 60% every time we go to the ballots, particularly major ballots. We grow with 80% of the votes, we come back. So you can just imagine what would happen when we turn 10 years.
So when do you think you'll become a governing party?
I believe it's going to be very soon, because the conditions, the sands beneath the current liberation movement or former liberation movement are shifting very fast. Increasingly, people realize that even their vote in Ramaphosa did not represent the change that they thought it would represent. So institutions of the state are still deteriorating with him as the president. The economy is worsening. Unemployment is skyrocketing because they do not have the ideas that it takes. They do not have the necessary guards that it takes to insert the necessary changes in the economy that will see, firstly, not only the economy grow, but the economy that is going to create sustainable, decent jobs for black people in particular, who have been excluded in numbers from the active economic life in South Africa.
What are your big projects for the next 5 years that you hope will set you up for the next elections?
We've got a lot of bills that we are putting through in Parliament. The first one is the insourcing bill, that all outsourced workers, particularly that work for government institutions, that it is happening here in the city of Johannesburg, must be insourced. It's a proper project, scientifically calculated. On one hand, it's going to give people decent jobs. They will earn cleaners, security guards will earn way above the 4,500 minimum wage that we have said. They will earn between 8 and 12,000 rands a month. That's decent jobs with the necessary, benefits, medical aid, pension funds. But on the other hand, it's going to save money because the tendering processes that have to do with those contracts in particular, the parasitic black bourgeoisie, which is mostly linked to ANC, which is linked to people that are in power, they rob the state of a lot of money. So we've got as well alcohol advertisement banning bill because we want to, take out of the system the celebration of alcohol, which is actually the most destructive drug in society.
Chief was holding a bottle and celebrating it at your celebrations.
That was a celebration of a young black talent. It's champagne that belongs to Bonang Mateba,
right, so as long as
which is uncharacteristic, by the way. All alcohol beverages in South Africa and mostly in the world are owned by white old men. It's a significant message.
We can drink as long as
it must be responsible. It must be responsible, number one. But generally, we are going for a bill that is trying to ban, alcohol advertising in general within our media. So there's a lot of things, but also the establishment of a state bank. We will be moving very heavily in terms of our campaigns in the transformation of the financial sector. And then we still have a big battle in relation to illicit financial flows, particularly in the extractive industries that are robbing our tax coffers of billions and billions of rands. So we've got the next 5 years that are going to be very busy at the heart of white monopoly capital. People used to say the EFF exists because of Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma is out of the way now, and we've always said this, that it was just an irritation. The real battle is on now, with the directly with the people that are at the center of the problems of South Africa, which is white monopoly capital. The final thing to actually say there is that for the last 25 years, the macroeconomic policy in South Africa has been prioritizing markets to create jobs, to lead growth. Capital, all the conditions have been created for private capital to create jobs and also to lead economic growth. And one of the biggest things of people, the biggest people that we have to blame for the state of the economy, it's white monopoly capital that has failed regardless of favorable policies. And that's what you have to realize about the type of thinking that is still dominant within the African National Congress, is that they still think the markets will create jobs for us. It's not going to happen.
I'd love to have another conversation with you in the near future, particularly around white monopoly capital. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for your time. All right, that's our conversation with the national spokesperson of the economic freedom fighters, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. We'll have more for you right after this break. Stay with us.